Isha, I think you can start letting the participants in. Hi, Aqib. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, walaikum assalam.
How are you? So good to see you.
I'm good.
I'm
Thank you.
so
How are you?
sorry. I'm good. I'm so sorry for keeping you on a working day, but thank you so much for doing this.
No, it's actually a bank holiday in Germany. It's I think Unity Day in Germany. Yeah, so it's today was a
Oh,
holiday.
right. Then that's great to hear because we were feeling a little guilty for keeping you on a working day, but that's great to hear.
Yeah,
We're very excited to have this conversation with you today. I was just waiting for about 2 to 3 more minutes for people to join, and then we can start. I hope that's okay.
sure thing.
Okay. I think we can start. The rest of the people can, join in later. Okay, hi everyone. Assalamu alaikum. This is Ikra Gilani from atomcamp. Just a little about atomcamp. Atomcamp is a continuous learning edtech platform. We work on upskilling youth in data science, AI, data engineering, and all this ever-evolving tech space. and we're trying to upskill as many people as possible. We also promote interdisciplinary education, continuous learning, and we work on soft skills as well. We work on helping people, improve their soft skills as well. Today, we're very excited to have Aqib with us. Aqib is a data engineer. He has 4 years of experience. He's currently in Berlin, Germany. I'll also let Aqib tell us about himself and all the cool things that he does. But before that, I think we did a webinar with Aqib about a year ago, 9 months to be precise. And I think it's a good starting point to start this conversation that how much do you think your career has evolved and progressed, and how much do you think this, data engineering field has evolved? So I think this is a good starting point. You can tell us a little about the cool things that you do and how, in this year things have changed. Aqib, you're muted.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. First of all, I introduce myself. My name is Aqib, and yeah, I graduated in 2019 from NUST. Yeah, I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I worked for a few years in Pakistan and recently got a job in Germany, and I relocated here. Uh, and yeah, so 9 months ago, I think the last webinar that we did, I was still in Pakistan, and I was in the visa process. Uh, I was deciding on which company to join, and I was going through the process. And regarding what has changed regarding in data engineering, I would say pretty much in 1 year, a lot has changed in regards to the introduction of AI or these large language models, for example, ChatGPT. It was not that relevant or big, I would say 9 months ago. So yeah, I think uh, from 9 months ago, uh, the introduction of ChatGPT and large language models have and their use in day-to-day work, I think that is a significant part of what has changed since 9 months. So, yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting to hear. And I think you also, Akib also talks about current demand of data engineers, skilled, individuals, and how people from different background can tap into this field as well. So I think जो आज हमारे agenda of conversation है, that's all. It is also that we're going to talk about data engineering in depth. And आकिब ने बताया उनकी journey काफी easy लगी है, और he's saying कि वो 4 years में I've relocated to Germany, but it's not that easy, I'm sure. So I think वो हम थोड़ा detailed breakdown भी करेंगे कि what exactly is data engineering, and if somebody is looking to have a career in it, what are the things that person should consider. So Akib, please tell us a little about what exactly is data engineering, और आप उसको थोड़ा easy breakdown बताएं कि what exactly is that.
Okay. So in one line, data engineering is basically collection, processing, and delivery of data. Um, Meaning that anyone or any team in a company that requires data, they have to get the data from somewhere or someone. For example, uh, data science की team होगी, and they are looking to make a machine learning model. To do that, they require data. They will get that data from data engineers. Similarly, if someone is looking to make a dashboard or a graph for the managers, for example, gross profit, so revenue last month. They have to make this dashboard to show to the management. They will require some data to build the dashboard on top of. So they will get this data from data engineers. So essentially, data engineering is basically just sourcing data, processing data so that it is understandable, and delivering data so that other teams or other people can use it. So it's just delivery of data. So this is what data engineering is.
Okay, I think so that if in simpler terms, we can say that it's the foundation, and that's where sort of you start from. तो बिल्डिंग ऑन टू दैट, जिस तरह हमने बताया कि डेटा इंजीनियरिंग फाउंडेशन है और वहां से यू कैन सोर्स दैट डेटा. Tell us a little about a sub view of this field, data engineering, and what do you see? How do you see its scope nationally and internationally?
Okay, so I will give an example. Um, I will give an analogy. So, for example, if we talk about the demand of data engineering, when a company starts, for example, let's start a company from scratch right now. The first thing that company needs is an online presence, maybe a website or an app. So for this, they will require software engineers or web developers. Once the company grows and they will start getting or collecting more and more data, now they need someone to analyze the data and make some sense of the data. So now they require either data analysts or data engineers. And if the company keeps on growing, they will get and if they reach a point that their data gets so big that they want to do some machine learning on top of it, at this point, they might require some data scientists. And if we start 100 companies, it is possible that not all companies reach the data engineering level, and even fewer companies will reach the data science level. So this is how even the demand is right now in tech, I would say. And this is why I think that demand for software engineers will always be greater than data engineers, and demand for data engineers will uh, in more likely be more than data scientists. So this is the natural trajectory of a company. So I would say data engineering demand is still good. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for explaining that. Just for the audience, we have tried to prepare a very comprehensive list of questions. So अगर आपको लग रहा है कि आपका क्वेश्चन अभी नहीं आंसर हुआ है तो hopefully वो आंसर हो जाएगा, because keeping 1 hour in mind, we try to prepare the list accordingly. और जितने भी हमें questions आते हैं हमने उन सबको एक मिक्स मिला के एक comprehensive list of questions बनाई है. तो इंशाल्लाह hopefully आपके questions भी by the end of this 1 hour आंसर हो जाएंगे. Coming back to our conversation, Aqib Islam ने बताया कि there is still demand, and how you become. But right now that you're telling, what were the motivating factor for you to become data engineer? And 4 years ago, when you started sort of your career, where were you looking at, and what you sort of wanted to aim?
Okay. So I think it's important to note that my graduation was in mechanical engineering in 2019. And I worked for a few years, a little while. And it was especially during COVID, जबकि मैंने realize किया कि it is very good option to have if you're able to do work remote. And at that time, my job was of such a nature that it most of it cannot be done remotely. So it was during the time of COVID that I realized that it's a good thing to have if you're able to do your job remotely. And that was number one. And number two was that I wanted to be able to earn in a foreign currency, so anything other than the local currency. And I think this prompted me or motivated me to look into the data engineering space. Um, I was actually so and so this is where I can also give an example of my personal experience of the demand versus data scientists and data engineers. So I was initially going for data science because data science was the very hot topic at the time. I was looking to enter a data science career, and I essentially got to a point where started thinking, okay, I want to start applying for jobs, either in companies or do maybe freelance projects. And I went on Upwork. So Upwork पे मैंने realize किया if you type data science and you see the number of bids per project, I was seeing 20 people gave a bid on this project, 30 people, close to 50 people on Upwork. And coincidentally, I searched for data engineers. Uh, so I just happened to search for data engineering projects on Upwork. And I was actually surprised most of the projects had less than 5 bids, and they were decently paying projects. So that was the time that it clicked in my head. Okay, so this is now I need to make this change immediately, and I need to go towards data engineering. So this was, I think, the pivotal point where I started thinking that I need to go into data engineering. Yeah.
And I think you're doing, mashallah, pretty great in your field. So that's very nice to hear. I think data science is the new buzzword. So we see a lot of people sort of shifting towards it, learning. But when we actually did our research, so we did not have a lot of examples from Pakistan, people who are making it big or data are into data engineering field. So we really wanted to sort of start something for people to learn as well from Atom Camp's platform as well. Akib, you talked about how you started your journey. I think money is a pretty great factor, and anybody, we should definitely take advantage of, remote work and all these, new fields that are popping up now. Can you please talk a little about your, daily, day-to-day tasks and key responsibilities as a data engineer, and what's a day at, your job look like for you?
Okay, so I would say the major part of any data engineer's job is to make data pipelines. And data pipeline is basically what is the definition of data engineering. So you source the data, you process the data, and then you deliver the data. So this is a data pipeline. So most of my work and data engineers' work in general, day to day, looks like they are mostly developing or working on data pipelines. Um, and to do this, we use a number of tools depending on what kind of pipeline that is. And this can vary in complexity. For example, if we have a simple Excel spreadsheet, which has maybe 1,000, 2,000, or even 10,000 rows, and we want to be able to process that spreadsheet, uh, we can do that easily using within Excel or maybe Python or some other programming language. But what if I were to say that that same Excel spreadsheet is 500 gigabytes, is 500 GBs? Now it gets a little bit more complicated. Now we have to find out ways to make the data pipeline and do so in a timely manner. So this is the example of batch pipelines, and we are also working on streaming pipelines. So the difference in batch and streaming is as the name suggests. So batch is you schedule a pipeline. For example, every day at 6 p.m., data will migrate or get from here to here, to point A to point B, every day at 6 p.m. So this is batch pipeline. Real-time pipeline is data is coming all the time. Every a moment, it is coming in real time. You have to process the data as it is coming in without any delays. So this is a real-time pipeline. So these are two major kind of pipelines that data engineers usually work with, and this is my day-to-day, what my day-to-day looks like as well. So this is what I usually do.
I think sounds pretty cool, and I hope you're enjoying it. Building on to that, you talked about tools and languages that, can you tell, in terms of someone who's starting their career, let's say they're engineers, but they're trying to sort of shift towards data engineering now, what are some initial tools or languages that they can learn to sort of kickstart their career somewhat?
Okay, so if we talk about the steps to go into data engineering, so to be able to get a job in data engineering, you need to make a data engineering CV. So let's look at this in reverse. So to be able to get a job in data engineering, you need a data engineering CV. And to able to make a data engineering CV, you need 4 to 5 easy to medium level data engineering projects or data pipeline projects. Um, so this is what we have to do if we want to get a data engineering job. We have to make 4 or 5 projects so that we can show on our CV. Now coming to what those projects will look like. Um, so a typical data engineering pipeline is we usually source data from somewhere. In our case, we can source it from maybe a website, or a database. Let's go with website. So if you want to source data from a website, or let's say Amazon or any other website, we can build a scraper using Python. So Python is a programming language that we can use to source data from a website. Now we can process the data um, using the same programming language, Python. And now we have to, once the data has been processed, we have to put the data somewhere, either in a spreadsheet or in a database. So this is what a typical a scraping pipeline might look like. So to do this, you have to first, you can start by learning Python. The next step would be to build a scraper. The next step would be to learn a database, for example, MySQL, so that you can put the data in MySQL. And so this is an end-to-end pipeline. So data has been loaded into a MySQL database. The next thing you have to do is you have to orchestrate the pipeline. So orchestration is basically you scheduling a pipeline to run at a specified time. For example, you don't want to manually trigger the scraper or manually run the pipeline to get data from point A to point B. You need to automate the entire process. So this is where orchestration comes into play. You can do that using Airflow. So Airflow is a very popular orchestration tool, which you can use to orchestrate a data pipeline. So once you orchestrate a data pipeline and fully automate it, now you have a fully functioning end-to-end pipeline, which you can show in your CV. Just do maybe 3, 4, 5 projects of a similar nature that you can put into CV, and then you can start applying for. So these are so once you have done this, I think you are ready to start applying for jobs. It is so. There are other tools, for example, cloud technologies or big data tools that are not necessary if you're a very beginner, because the number one goal is to reach a point where a person can start applying for jobs. So some of these things are not necessary. So once you learn Python, MySQL, maybe automated with Airflow, you are ready to make a CV and start applying for jobs. In parallel, you can learn the big data. While you are applying for jobs and giving interviews, you can maybe learn in parallel some of the big data technologies. For example, you can start learning about cloud, AWS or GCP, or you can start learning Spark. So Spark is a very popular big data tool that जैसे कि earlier मैंने example दी 500 gigabytes of data. अगर आपकी फाइल ही 500 GB की है, PySpark or Spark is a very, very popular choice in this case to process the 500 gigabytes of data. So you can learn this in parallel while you're applying for jobs. So this is what I would recommend for a very beginner who is looking to enter into data engineering. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think for providing this breakdown in a very clear picture of what are the tools and languages that you can learn. Building onto this question, I would also like you to tell our audience a little about what are the resources online or otherwise, things that they can refer to learn these tools and languages, and anything in particular that helped you in your career or when you were trying to, land a job. So please talk a little about that and guide our audience about that. Yes.
Okay, so I don't have a course in mind. So I don't usually recommend courses because everything is um, so so what I would say, the number one thing for a person who is looking into going to data engineering is to have a mentor, have someone, either one person or a group of people that you can take advice from or get suggestions from, a mentor. So the number one goal of a mentor is to prevent you from wasting your time, time and resources. For example, you might think कि अच्छा ये भी सीख लेता हूँ, वो भी सीख लेता हूँ, ये भी सीख लेता हूँ, उसके बाद jobs पे apply करना शुरू करूँगा. And mentor will be like, no, you don't have to do any of those things. You can start applying for jobs right away. You don't have to learn that. You don't have to learn that. So a goal of a mentor is to prevent you from wasting your time and resources. So I would say the number one thing is to, if you can find a mentor, I would say the number one thing is to get a mentor. The second thing would be to have a deadline, because people usually start learning something, but they don't have a deadline in mind. So they just keep learning, and lots of time goes by, and uh, they might not have progress to show. So the second thing is to have a deadline and the deadline that I usually have in mind is just a few months. So for example, if you're starting today, you can set a deadline maybe 3 or 4 months in advance. I think that is enough to start applying for jobs. Uh, Deadline of 3 or 4 months into the future. Uh, so that's the second suggestion that I can share from experience. And the third is, do not overburden yourself. So when I say this, so we have to do our best to avoid from burnout. Burnout is something that I am speaking from experience, because burnout is something that once you, I think we all can relate at some level. So we hear about new technology, we start giving so much time to it. We spend maybe 5-10 hours a day for maybe 1, 2, 3 days or even a week, and then we start getting and then we immediately uh, start refraining from that or staying away from that. So this is um, a very typical example of a burnout. So जो भी मेरे से पूछता है, uh, a very important suggestion that I usually give people is to put a limit on how much time you can spend per day, and not go over that limit. For example, if you're usually when I was learning, I was doing also a full-time job. So I was working during the day, and I only had nights. So usually I was um, doing data engineering or learning for maybe 2 hours per day on average. So this is, I would say, a typical uh, time frame for a person who is currently doing a job to learn anything. You don't have to go more than 2 hours if you're doing consistently. So this is the third suggestion that I would like to give, is to not overexert yourself to the point that you ultimately get burnt out and give up on everything. So this is an important suggestion. So these are three tips that I had in mind. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aqib. That makes a lot of sense. But when you talk about mentor, we see unfortunately that we don't have a lot of people or a lot of examples that people can reach out to. So AtomCamp tries to bring such individuals and give people a chance to, have their questions answered. But we do not have such examples like in a lot. So in terms of that, I was asking like if you would encourage our audience to sort of learn from somewhere, at least if they do not have a mentor, let's just say, or if they're already in a job, or if they have a degree but they do not have the skills required for a job. So in that case, do you think that it is better to have a sense of community or a place that you can sort of go to and refer to while learning those skills? Because not everyone has access to a mentor. Not everyone feels confident enough to reach out to a mentor. They don't have such examples. So please talk a little about that in that regard.
Okay. So usual suggestion that I give people is that only go for a course if they're offering something other than just knowledge. So if a course is just giving you knowledge, knowledge is free on the internet. You can get knowledge from free on the internet. But if they're giving something other than knowledge, then maybe that course can be considered. Either they are giving a network, they're giving you a group that will keep you on track, or they are giving you maybe some job interview opportunities. So anything other than just knowledge is very important criteria for selecting a course, because knowledge is free on the internet. Uh, but if a course is offering, for example, a cohort where you can discuss with people, and you can keep basically stay on track, and whether you can build your network and ultimately use that network to get job interviews or interview calls or job offers, then I think that course can be worth it. So I think this is an important criteria to select a course. Yeah.
Okay, that gives me a lot of relief that atomcamp actually tries to sort of plan their courses or boot camp or training, whatever, with this end goal that people are sort of, we enable people by the end of it to, have some sort of gig or some sort of job and skills to show on their resume so that recruiters can hire them. Building on to that, thank you so much. I really wanted to talk about the role of mentorship in detail as well. And when you talk about that people need direction and you need to have a goal, mentors can also help you stay steadfast in terms of what you're trying to reach. And communities, अगर आप किसी के साथ सीख रहे हैं, you have that sense of community, you have goals, you have peers helping you, pushing you to do better. And then, in a limited time frame of 3 to 6 months, you can learn so many things. So you talked about mentorship. Talk about your mentor a little, how your mentor helped you to be where you are right now, and people who are trying to reach out to mentors. What are the do's and don'ts that they should really, keep in their mind in terms of, because you see that we reach out to people, but we feel very entitled to their time. So what are the things that you would, and the tips that you would give to people in order to, reach out to someone, and then and the possibility of them responding to you as well. So please talk about it a
So
little.
regarding what my experience with mentors, so when I decided to go into data engineering, so I looked at a few people who are already in data engineering and are fairly successful. So I reached out to them either on LinkedIn, or or maybe they were a friend of a friend, or through my own network, and then I basically just asked them the necessary tools. Um, so so the main question of that I used to ask my mentors is, should I learn this or not? So these were most of the questions that, okay, I found this online, should I learn this or not? And most of the time the answer was no. So you should not learn this. And this is why I um, I think the key job of a mentor is to prevent you from wasting your time and resources and effort. So this is this is what my experience with mentorship was like. And regarding what to ask mentors, so um, there, so every question has a level. So for example, if you're asking, you cannot go to a mentor and ask, okay, what is data engineering? So this because this is a very because you should know this already. You should do your because I think you should do um, some research and ask uh, questions that need additional context. For example, if you're asking uh, those questions that can be that we can search easily on just by one Google search, that can be answered just by one Google search, then I think that might not be the good question to ask a mentor. Usually, the questions to ask mentors is that once you do a Google search, for example, you Google search, okay, what is the best tools to learn in data engineering? You will get maybe 20, 30, or even 50 Google searches, which can be different, um, which can all be different. So website number one is saying XYZ tools, and website number two is saying ABC tools. What tool to learn? So these confusions are where mentors come into play. So I think, and this was what my questions to my mentors were usually like. I usually asked them when I was confused, okay, should I learn A or B? And they would say, okay, learn A, you don't have to learn B. And should I learn this or not? And most of the time, they used to say, no, you don't have to learn this. You can do basically achieve your goal without learning this. So this is what my usual interactions with mentors was like. Yeah.
I think that's very smart of you to be very specific. And when you're being specific, they also have time and bandwidth to sort of respond to you. Building on to that, actually, yes. What was my next question? Yes. So I see this is a very pressing question. मैं comments में भी देखी हूँ लोगों ने बहुत पूछा हुआ है that what is the difference between data scientist and data engineer? ये एक बहुत people we try to Google it. We have a lot of resources available online. बहुत definitions हैं. But someone who actually works in this industry, for that person, how do you think these fields differ from each other?
Okay. So I have an analogy in mind. It's a very stupid analogy, but I usually say this to clarify. So we have oil that we put in our cars. So one company is drilling the oil and getting it from the ground, and another company is cleaning the oil and selling it to customers. So these are two separate oil companies. One is getting the oil from the ground, and the other is cleaning it and selling it to customers. Data engineering is basically getting the oil from the ground, and data science is basically cleaning it and getting it to the customer. So this is a very stupid example that I usually give. Data engineering is basically you source the data and give it to data scientists so that they can use the data and build machine learning models on top of it. Data scientists usually do machine learning. They basically look at the data. For example, they might one very typical example is that they might see a um, the sales in the last 6 or 7 months, and they can predict what the number of sales will be next in the next 2 3 months. So this is a typical example of a data science or data and analytics project. But in order to do this, they have to get data from somewhere, and that is where data engineers come into play. So this is the difference. Yeah.
I think this is what the difference, that mentor can people who are already in the field that can make in your lives. Because I actually forgot my question thinking about it when you say that mentors can actually sort of help you define your path. And when we, Google some definition for something, or in terms of other than that, we talk to that person who's actually in the field. Those are two complete different things. And having access to people like that is pretty great. And um, building on to that, I think just आपने बात की कि mentorship बहुत important होती है. How did you get a job, in Germany where you are right now? And what was the path that you were following? Were you very active on LinkedIn? Were you talking about your skills? Were you applying? So please talk a little about that roadmap that you followed for people who are aiming for international careers as well in data engineering.
Okay. So um, I was working in a startup in Pakistan where when I started applying for international jobs, and Europe is was my prime target because I had seen other people get a job in a similar fashion or in a similar way. So I was motivated and encouraged that, okay, this is a possibility and I can directly get a job in Europe in data engineering directly from Pakistan. So that's why I was targeting Europe. So overall, I think I applied in a little more than or close to 100 jobs in all over Europe. I got maybe 15 to 20 interviews, and at the end, I got 3 job offers um, from Europe uh, in different countries. So I think the main uh, I think the main uh, trick was that I already had, so I was looking at examples. So, for example, if I want to get a job in Germany, I would look at a person who got a job in Germany and I will directly message them and then ask for tips. So, I had, um, at the time, I had a coworker who was relocating to London, and I asked basically him, okay, what were the tips and tricks, how to make a CV, and basically what were the uh, how were the interviews and how to clear some of the interviews. So I think the key aspect of in my journey was I was asking people who had already achieved what I was hoping to achieve. So they can give me practical suggestions. For example, if I want to get a job in Germany, I will ask someone who already got a job in Germany through my way. and similar to some of the other countries. So um, this is how I would usually approach my job hunting, and ultimately I ended up giving a few interviews and I ended up uh, getting a job in Germany, and then eventually got relocated here.
So I think the key is to reaching out to people. We shy away from asking questions or asking for suggestions for people who are already there. But we definitely are. We also encourage people to please reach out, see whatever interests you, आप उनसे बात करें. Building on to that, आपने जिस तरह बात की कि आप बहुत mass applying किया था, आपने बहुत जगह apply किया था. So what were the skills that you highlighted in your resume? When you were applying, or आप, when you had to write a cover letter or some sort of email, तो आप वो किस तरह करते थे, उसके उसके बारे में भी थोड़ी सी बात.
There were no cover letters, no zero cover letters. Okay, so um, so this is where the knowledge of how to make a CV comes into play, because I had to go through a lot of iterations um, on my CV, that eventually I was able to reach a point where I was getting interview calls. For example, in the beginning stage, I had a CV, uh, and and I was getting maybe 2, 3, 4% interview calls. So if I applied for 50 roles, I was only getting maybe 3, 4 interview calls. But after I changed my CV, and it was a sequential process, eventually my CV got to a point where I started getting 20, 30% interview calls. So if I applied to 50 roles, I was getting interview calls from 15, 20 companies. So this was a sequential progress. And this is where the knowledge of how to make a CV comes into play. Regarding how to make a CV and how to write bullet points, um, I think the main idea is to be precise and concise, so that um, because the first person to see your CV will not be a technical person. Most probably will not be a technical person. It will be an HR person or a talent acquisition person. उनको शायद technical terms का इतना ज़्यादा ना पता हो. So you have to balance the technical terminology with the non-technical terminology in your CV. And I would actually um, prefer the non-technical impact. For example, um, uh, if I used XYZ tools to make a data pipeline, I will not say that upfront. I will say I achieved this business impact. For example, 10% um, improvement in sales. This is a very typical example. 10% improvement in sales through a data pipeline that I made using XYZ tools. So अगर कोई HR या talent acquisition person इसे पढ़ेगा, he will be able to understand, okay, this was the impact. Because they might not understand the technical words, but they will understand the impact, uh, that the business impact. So this is how the mindset that I was in when I was making my CV, and this is how I phrased my bullet points. And eventually, I was able to reach a point where I was getting interview calls. So this was the process. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'm so relieved to know that there were no cover letters. I don't know why people need cover letters, and you talked about कि how you need to talk about your skills in the resume, or you need to be very smart about it. This brings me to my next question. You talked about technical skills, but you said that when HR is processing your CV, they might not know a lot about technical terms. So, what do you think? How important is the role of soft skills? And how much you think that matters for the role of data engineer, data scientist, or let's say any role. How how you should highlight those skills on your resume, and how you should work on those skills, and what are those skills that you should really work on. So please talk about importance of soft skills in a life of data engineer as well.
Okay. I don't think there are soft skills that are specific for data engineering. So soft skills are general for every career or every job that we apply to. The general soft skills that I have usually seen or experienced is so there are basically two things, uh, um, two main things that come in hand when you're giving interview. Are you trustworthy, and are you able to convey your point? So these are just the two things that I have experienced can play a major role in your interview, overall interviewing. For example, if you're saying something to me, uh, are you do when I hear you, do I trust you? Do I trust what you are saying? So are you trustworthy? So this is the number one thing uh, that I think is very important in interviews. The second thing is, are you able to get your point across using um, any language, any words? So am I basically able to understand you, and do I trust you? So these are, I think, if you're able to go through this, then it doesn't matter. So I think these are all the soft skills that you might need in an interview. So basically, can I understand you, and do I trust you? So if I trust you and I understand you, uh, then only thing left are the technical skills. If those technical skills are also fine, then it's good. So this is what my experience with interviewing has been. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think now that you've provided a very clear roadmap, this sounds a little difficult, of course, but something that is worth investing in. And if you're looking for a career in data engineering, this is definitely the right choice, and you can actually learn and achieve whatever you're aiming for, whether it's a national job, international job, आप सिर्फ अपनी skills improve करना चाहते हैं, so this is actually absolutely the right field. I think ये तो हमें एक clear understanding after this conversation हो गई होगी. Also, Aki, please talk a little about job opportunities now that we're talking about, because you see that main motivation for people to tap into any different field or to learn more skills in the field that they're currently in is a job. People really want to have better income, and I think that's a fair understanding of anything, and that's a fair expectation to have. So please talk about how do you see more opportunities coming in? Do you think there's current demand of data engineers, but we don't have many? And how do you see that, panning out? So please talk a little about job opportunities in this field.
So I would say um, there is a lot of demand for good data engineers, and I think data engineers is at that point right now where क्योंकि जैसे शुरू की मैंने मिसाल दी, I went on Upwork and I searched for data engineering projects, and the number of bids were most of the projects was less than five, or less than five, and most of the projects were high paying, good paying projects. So I think data engineering is a perfect combination of high demand and low competition. Obviously, competition varies depending on what specific job we might be aiming for. But I think overall there is very good demand for data engineers. And I can give an example. When I was in Pakistan, there was an open data engineering role. Uh, वो रोल 3 महीने तक ओपन ही रहा, यानी कि उन्हें कोई डेटा इंजीनियर नहीं मिला. अब this was and I've seen similar jobs where they are struggling, or sometimes struggling to fill in the correct person for that job. And this is what I've usually seen in Pakistan, and also sometimes internationally as well. So I would say there is good demand for good data engineers. I would say there is demand. Yeah.
I think that sounds very exciting. Again, now that you're here, there was a journey that you followed. There were a lot of, experimentation, learning of skills. You've worked on a lot of things, which is why you were here. And after 4 years, so I think we should make it a little more exciting for people. You've started 4 years ago. और आप थोड़ा सा ये बताएं कि जब आपने स्टार्ट किया था, you've sort of progressed into another field, you've learned skills, you've gained sufficient experience, or up you're here working internationally. So what sort of work-life balance do you have right now, now that you're at a better place? I'm sure you're earning better. I'm not going to be the, well, like one of those people कि वो आप अपनी salary बताएं. I think we should never ask anyone this question. लेकिन हाँ, जितनी आप salary लेना चाहते हैं, please always aim for higher. तो आप उस अपने work life balance के बारे में बात करें. How has that comparatively improved? Or now that you've learned all those skills, now that you've become a data engineer, so how has that impacted your life and your work-life balance?
So I would say Europe in general has very good rules when it comes to work-life balance. Um, most of the people start leaving. So I usually my working day starts at maybe 9 or 10, and I usually work um, maybe 5 or 6 or sometimes even 7. So this is what a typical day, and I think Europe overall is people here put very much emphasis on work-life balance. And I would say this is a European thing, but overall, what I've seen in data engineering, um, my experience has been good. So um, if you want to take on additional projects and uh, put more effort, I think that is good and that is a separate thing. But usually, what I've seen is that work-life balance is in data engineering and specifically in Europe. I would say that is pretty. कभी कभी इतना टाइम मिल जाता है पता नहीं होता क्या करूं तो uh, so I would say yeah that is
I think that sounds like a great motivation for people like जिन जो whether इस field में हैं या जो नहीं भी हैं. I think सबको start तो करना चाहिए because now you get time and you have time and you have nothing to do. So I think we would all want that. Thank you so much आकिब, आपने बहुत डिटेल में इन सारी चीज़ों के बारे में बात की है. Just to conclude, आप अपनी professional journey में आपने whatever you have learned, I'm sure there were roadblocks. I'm sure it took you a lot to learn those skills, to have a resume, to have a portfolio, and now to have a job जिसमें आपको कभी कभी टाइम मिलता है कि आपके पास कुछ करने को भी नहीं होता. तो आप उसके बारे में बताएं कि आपने अपनी 4 year प्रोफेशनल जर्नी में क्या सीखा है और आपको क्या लगता है कि कॉन्टिन्यूअस लर्निंग ने किस तरह आपकी प्रोफेशनल जर्नी को इम्पैक्ट किया है और आप क्या एक ऐसा सजेशन है जो हमारी ऑडियंस के साथ शेयर करेंगे फॉर दोज हु आर ट्राइंग टू स्टार्ट इन दिस फील्ड, progress in this field. So please talk a little about that.
I would say the number one thing that I have learned, and I think this is the most important when it comes to growth, is always or most of the times surround yourself with people who are better at you at something. Uh, because not everyone can be better at everything from everyone. So surround yourself with people who are better at you at some, maybe 1 or 2 things. Uh, I think that is the key suggestion that I've learned from experience and that I can give, that I'm able to give, is always surround yourself with people who are better at you at something. This way, you will see them, and you will, uh, and if it's a healthy relationship, and you will want to be like them, and in the process, the entire group uh, grows stronger and grows uh, in their career. So I was saying the number one thing that I've experienced is always surround yourself with people who are better than you at 1 or more things. So this is it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the ultimate goal is learning, and Atom Camp also encourages people to learn, to start from somewhere. There are so many people, just हमने बात की, we can reach out to mentors. There are so many resources available online. आप YouTube पे जाएं. There, अगर आप, if you struggle with, आपको properly कोई timeline चाहिए होता है, कोई guidance चाहिए होती है, mentorship चाहिए होती है, तो आप, उन ways को भी explore करें, consider करें. प्लीज राइट अस एन ईमेल. आपकी कोई भी क्वेरी है, आप डेटा इंजीनियरिंग डेटा साइंस के अंदर जाना चाहते हैं, तो एटम कैंप इज ऑलवेज हियर टू हेल्प. वी प्रोवाइड अ लॉट ऑफ ट्रेनिंग्स कोर्सेज. हम सिर्फ कहते हैं कहीं से आप स्टार्ट करें, लेकिन अगर आपको लगता है कि आपको कम्युनिटी ज्यादा हेल्प करेगी, आपको मेंटोरशिप ज्यादा हेल्प करेगी, ट्रेनर से डायरेक्ट कॉन्टैक्ट ज्यादा हेल्प करेगा, तो व्हाई नॉट, प्लीज कम टू अस. चेक आउट आवर वेबसाइट. हम बहुत सारी चीजें जो डेटा इंजीनियरिंग और डेटा साइंस में भी कराते हैं. डेटा इंजीनियरिंग का बूट कैंप भी इसी वजह से हम सिर्फ लॉन्च करें ताकि मार्केट के अंदर इसकी डिमांड है. एंड आई जिनको नहीं भी पता था, आई थिंक उनको इस कॉन्वर्सेशन के बाद भी पता लग गया होगा कि देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ डिमांड एंड यू शुड जस्ट start from somewhere, this tech space is ever evolving. And please, आप इससे फायदा उठाएं और ऐसी जॉब के लिए जिसका आपके पास टाइम हो और आप कभी कभार कुछ भी ना करें. So I think we should really do that. I would love that, and I'm sure you would love that. So thank you so much, Akib. It was really nice talking to you, and I think we really need more voices like you, people like you who are there to actively guide you, who are there to support and give back to the community. So it's a great pleasure, and Atom Camp is we were feeling very honored that you gave us your time, and we wish you all the best on your journey. क्योंकि commitment बहुत important होती है और हमने आपसे commit किया था कि 1 घंटा ही आपका लेंगे. So it's your day off. We didn't want to bother you too much. But thank you so much, Akib. I hope you had fun, and I hope हमने ज़्यादा आपसे कोई उस तरह के questions नहीं करे जो मुश्किल थे. And it was nice. I hope.
No, no, yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, if and I'm aware that we cannot maybe answer all the questions. लेकिन अगर किसी का कोई सवाल है that is still unanswered, just reach out to me, text me on LinkedIn or email, and yeah, I would be happy to take a look. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
because
always available. Yeah.
people who were scared कि जिनको reach out नहीं करना चाहिए mentors को, आकिब is an example. आप please उनको reach out करें, उनसे question पूछे, लेकिन please specific questions पूछें क्योंकि obviously हर किसी की bandwidth होती है जिसके अंदर वो respond कर सकते हैं. तो आप जब भी किसी को reach out कर रहे होते हैं तो आप please उनकी time का बहुत ख्याल रखा करें. और हम following that, we're also going to follow that. We're going to be mindful of your time. Thank you so much, Aqib. It was a pleasure having you. And thank you so much for giving your time, for mentoring so many people, and for giving back to the community. We would
Uh,
love to stay in touch.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, it was a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. And yeah, this was a good session. And yeah, uh,
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
yes.
Enjoy your, rest of your day. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much to our audience as well for joining. I hope हमने एक comprehensive सी list prepare की थी. आप सबके questions answered हो गए होंगे. Still, if there's something that's unanswered, कोई data engineering से related आपके questions हैं, तो please आप पूछ सकते हैं. Email आपको हमारी comments में नजर आ रही होगी. आप हमें email भी कर सकते हैं. हमारे boot camp के बारे में अगर आपको लगता है आपको कोई road map चाहिए जहाँ से you should learn, so that is our boot camp as well, Data Engineering Bootcamp. आपको उसका curriculum सारी details हमारी website पे मिलेंगी, so you can definitely check that out. And Team Atom Camp is available to help you wherever we can. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night, and see you inshallah next time.